All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our second week of Living Lineage. I'm Dr. Jeanine L. Williams, ancestral medicine woman, founder of Ancestors Bosom, and I am with my dear friend, Andy Num, functional longevity expert. And so today we are going to talk about reclaiming ancestral knowing. And with that, like just deepening our connection to intuition, not as something mystical or rare, but as something that is inherited, something that already lives within us, something that is divine. And so, intuition, I was sharing with Andy, like I'm seeing people talk about it all over threads, but it's not a trend. It really is memory. It's lineage. It's a form of intelligence that existed within us long before overthinking, and fear became our default. And so, particularly in these times of when we think of things like AI and all of everything not being as it seems, right? Lots of distortions, lots of fear mongering. People are feeling that just kind of energetically with everything that's going on in our world. This is a time to really lean into our own inner knowing. Gone are the days where we're always looking for the guru or looking for the expert. I mean, I feel like every other day, one of our gurus, experts, celebrities, all of these people we've looked at, so many people look into, they're letting us down, or we're realizing, oh wow, they're human, or everything isn't as it seems. And that's fine. That's healthy for us because what it is, I feel like that's an ancestral whisper calling us back to that knowing, right? And um, so many of us have been taught, though, to distrust our inner knowing, to
Mhm.
override it, right? We call it, oh, I'm just being emotional, or oh, I'm irrational. But intuition is, it's like that, quiet, steady signal beneath fear, right? If we kind of drill down, that's where we find it. And so I have a question for you, Annie, just to kind of get the conversation going.
Yes.
As someone who is really being intentional and honing in on his intuition, like where do you feel your knowing? Is it in your gut? Is it in your chest? Is it in your throat? Like, talk to me about your experience of intuition.
I think for me, it always feels more like a gut feeling,
Mm.
right? And recently now, it's funny that you brought that up because I always think of it as a gut feeling. I actually feel it right around here, right? And it's sort of like it's almost like a longing type of feeling, right? I guess
Mm.
that's the best way I can explain it because it's sort of like, what exactly is it? It's almost like a heart longing feeling, and it's interesting because it's like, well, what is someone trying to tell me, right? Yeah. So I love the concept of intuition, right? And a lot of people just don't think about that, and like I said, I'm really trying to tap into it, and with everything that you're teaching and everything and
Yeah.
your guidance, it really opened my eyes on what intuition is, and I'm still learning what it is.
Yes, yes.
It's amazing.
I feel like that's it too. Like I don't think there's ever a part where you fully arrive. I feel like it's a constant, and not in a work way, a stressful
Mhm.
way, but it is like this ongoing journey of leaning into it further and further and more. I know for me, that's something in this season that I've really been feeling led to, like, is to lean more into my intuition, but not even just my intuition in the general sense, but connecting with the concept of the Ori, right, which is our divine consciousness. That's a Europe, from Yoruba. That's the concept of, before we incarnated, everything, our knowing, our destiny was placed in our head, and the
Oh
Ori
wow.
is said to live in your head. And your Ori is your higher self. It's the part of you that knows, the part of you that remembers. So it's not even, so that's been interesting because it's not even like, oh, is this intuition? Is this not, like, but just accepting that there is a part of me that knows,
Hmm.
and communing, connecting with that part of me, like that it is already in me. And so, like, having an Ori prayer in the morning, like, just even something as simple as touching my head, saying good morning to my Ori, and asking her, right? My Ori is female for me, asking her to be very close with me. Like yesterday was a really challenging day,
Mhm.
and I woke up, I felt unsure. So I asked my Ori to be extra close and extra clear. Like I knew that I was feeling tender. So my ability to trust felt a little shaky. So
Mhm.
this is not the day, Ori, for you to be speaking to me mystery and metaphors. I need, as clear as possible to be there. So just eat. So something about really honing in or really connecting to this idea that there is a part of me that already knows. And so that's kind of something that was new, and more powerful, that I really wanted to kind of present today. That it's, you're not just hoping your intuition is right. There is a part of you that knows what our divine consciousness, right? That already our destiny, our path is already laid out for us in some ways, and we just have to tap into that. And when we do, our steps become clearer and more ordered, even if we don't see the big picture.
Mhm.
Ori knows, Ori guide me, right? And so my steps are more firm.
So, can you give an example how to exactly do that? Because I think a
Mhm.
lot of us have problems talking to ourselves. I know I do. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes,
how would exactly, like, do you stand in front of a mirror, or how does that work? Or you lie down, closing your eyes, like, when you wake up? Like, what's the
right.
best way to tap into your Ori?
So usually for me, it's the second I wake up, second I come to that consciousness, before I pick up my phone, before
Okay.
I even allow, my conscious brain to turn on and start, wanting to start computing and figure things out.
Hmm.
Just taking a breath and just good morning, Ori, and just that's something as simple. It may work if you want to talk in a mirror. Some people even keep an Ori journal, right? If you're not
Okay.
one to talk, you can write things down now,
Hmm.
and that could be useful, particularly because then you can come back to it, and
Mm.
see where you ask for guidance, and what guidance looked like and how it came. So yeah. So I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do it. And that's the beauty of it. What I'm learning is we don't have to bury things in these intricate rituals. It
Hmm.
is so simple, and it's as
Correct.
simple as we allow it to be. As simple as we allow it to be. And that's it too, allowing. Like we have a choice to allow. Do we allow our Ori to speak? Do we allow this, simple kind of prayer connection to mean something? What do we allow? Do we allow ourselves to talk to ourselves? I don't know.
Hmm.
I talk to myself regularly. Me, we figure things out. We get to the bottom of so many things, right?
Correct. Correct.
And I've always been that way. This kind of conversation, um, and now I'm understanding it is my Ori. There is a part of me that knows, like, and so for me, when I feel it, it's usually a soft nudge or it's like an expansion in my chest. It's almost
Mhm.
like if I ask a question of my Ori, I feel this expansion, and that's how I feel the answer, not necessarily hear it audibly, but I feel the answer. But that took some time for me to kind of connect with that and to know what that was. Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. I want to ask you a question on that.
Uh-huh.
Because as we're all life coaches also, right?
Yes.
And we're always telling people, don't have negative thoughts,
Uh-huh.
because for me, I never really understood why, but it's like your mind doesn't know the difference between a negative or a positive thought,
Yes.
and whatever you think about, you bring about.
Right.
Now it's actually starting to make sense, because you're having these negative thoughts, and guess what? I guess Ori is saying, well, if that's what you want,
Right.
let's give you a little bit more of that.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, and that really is too, right? Tapping into our power. We don't, I don't we continually underestimate the power of our thoughts, of our energy. Before we got on, we were talking about magnetizing the types of
Yeah.
clients that we want, and that comes from aligning yourself energetically with that frequency.
Hmm.
And so then you show up in your Facebook post or whatever emitting that frequency, and that's what magnetizes who we want. It really is within us. And so when we are negative, and it's not that, again, like, we are still human, right? So
Mhm.
that's kind of the conundrum, right? And that's why, even more so, it's important to connect with our divine consciousness, because that is the more elevated aspect who can help us transcend the negative. So, like, even yesterday when I was feeling a little foggy and weighed down, I felt the negativity, the hum of the
Mhm.
negativity, the
Yes.
hum of the scarcity, the hum of it.
Mhm.
And so I was able to talk with my higher self, acknowledge I feel that. So what I need from you, like, I need more clarity, I need closeness,
Mm.
yeah. And the same way, that started for me as how I would speak to my ancestors, and I still speak and work with my ancestors that way. But my ancestors always lead me to my Ori. I'm realizing, like, that is,
Mhm.
and the times where I feel like everything's gone silent, it's because it's right? And so the more you move in this, and I know people like, oh, my guides are quiet, because they're giving you a chance to connect with you. You already know, right? And
Mhm.
the more mature, to use that word, the more practiced we get in this, the less we need all of the external validation, right? And
Mhm.
how do you ever really get your internal senses to turn up? Unless the external kind of turns down, gets quiet, right? Because it pushes us to trust a little bit more, which is the only way that we sharpen this. And so, yeah, sometimes too, intuition is simply the lack of anxiety about a decision, right? So
Mm.
quiet, stillness, peace, right? We underestimate um, that as a powerful tool of our Ori, of our intuition, of our knowing. Yeah. Mhm.
I love that explanation. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yes, yes. And so I do kind of want to talk a little bit about some things that can block us, right?
Mhm.
Because, right, and so let me be very clear. Everyone has an intuitive sense. Everyone has an Ori, or this higher self, or this divine consciousness. We may call it different things and relate to it in different ways, but everyone has it. It's not that, oh, well, Jeanine, oh, she has intuition and I don't. Oh, no, no, no. Now I may be a little more tuned in to my
Correct.
intuition, but it's not that I have something that you don't have, that you can't practice, and that you can't connect with. And so, so that's also very important to know. And anyone doing any intuitive kind of coaching work, the goal is to help you connect with your own intuition. Not that you're
Mhm.
constantly, coming. I can't live for you. I can't make
Right.
your decisions for you, right? That's it's irresponsible, it's negligent, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's malpractice, to use those types of words, if you will. But we can't deepen into intuition without naming what interferes with it. The first one is noise,
Correct.
constant input. Right. A lot of times when we are asking for people's opinions, or we're going to social media to see what the psychics are posting, like that quiets our own sense of knowing. It creates a dependency. A lot of times when we ask people for their opinion, we already know. We
Mhm.
already know what we want to do. We already have that sense, but then we go crossing the signals, because, asking everybody and their mama, what they think, you know
Correct.
and we're so, we're very in a noise driven society, like, it's so much coming on this all the time. Trauma,
Mhm.
hypervigilance can mimic intuition. And so, again, that's why it's so important to have this connection. For me, like, you're thinking about it in terms of the Ori, and,
Correct.
seeing it that way, because, yes, that hypervigilance can mimic intuition. Like, if you're on edge all the time, if you've had to live your life in survival, if you're carrying ancestral trauma, like, all of that can feel like I'm being intuitive, but really that's fear. And so, having a relationship with your intuition and understanding how trauma, whether it's personal trauma or ancestral trauma, how that can play into it. Over intellectualizing. As a PhD, that's how I was trained. think it about it and think it and overthink it, and just when you think you got it figured out, read another book and think it. And so we can over intellectualize things. So that was that
Mhm.
was definitely a challenge for me, and that is definitely a block that tries to come up when
Correct.
Dr. Jeanine, that when she turns on and tries to run the show. And I think also the last thing too is the need for certainty.
Hmm.
We don't, if we don't know for sure, we want these assurances that aren't natural, that we can't always get. And what I'm learning is that when we're in that void and the space of the unknown, that means everything is possible. And what
Hmm.
we usually do is think about the horrible things but no, all the good things are possible as well. Wow.
Right.
And so those things kind of block our intuition. But that ancestral knowing requires trust, and trust requires slowness. And if we're all the
Mhm.
time, we don't have space for that slowness in our lives. Yeah, yeah.
Let me ask you something,
Mhm.
Dr. Ginny. Um, because you mentioned a lot of people are, they're always on it. Like, it's almost like they're on the gas pedal all the time, right? And they got this trauma that's building up. They got this fear. This is basically something to tap into Ori to figure out what's the difference. Because you said sometimes this could be covering what your Ori is actually telling you. How would people work with you to distinguish between if it's trauma or you know what I'm saying? Because it's like if we're listening to the wrong voice,
Yes.
it's going to lead us to the wrong path, right?
Right. I think so I'll talk specifically about how I work with clients with that.
Yes,
But
I love
I
that.
really think our benchmark is alignment, right?
Hmm.
How align things. So if you think you're listening to your Ori or to your intuition and everything is calamity or
Hmm.
things are just off, you're feeling off, you don't feel settled, that's not it.
Hmm.
That's not it. And so when clients come to me, a lot of times we'll do a reading
Hmm.
where we're getting to clarity, but I practice intuitive tarot. So what I do is I am able to use my intuitive sense, or my kind of energetic sense, spiritual sense, to pick up on their energy, on
Hmm.
the client's energy, and using tarot as a way to make the unseen seen. uh,
Hmm.
and why people tend to get so excited in a reading and they love a reading is because it confirms what they already know. So it's not,
Oh,
and sometimes we need that, like that's what we need
right,
someone to just, particularly when we're leaping, we're stretching, we're
correct.
expanding beyond what we're
Yes.
used to. You may need the help of an ancestral medicine woman or reader or a guide. Even as an ancestral medicine woman, there are times where I need a reading, where I need
Mhm.
um, someone who is seasoned and gifted in ways that would help stretch and expand me. Now, I shouldn't need that for every decision and for all the time, but as you're getting more in tune with your intuition, that's a way to work with a professional or a guide
I
to
love
help
that.
you with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of people they may not know. It's like, well, how come my Ori is always leading me down the wrong path?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, that's not, yeah, that's your Ori again, is the part of you that knows you, that loves you, that
Mhm.
that cares for you deeply, that wants to ensure your health, your safety, your prosperity, your abundance,
Mhm.
right? Connecting you with all of those things that are inherently yours as a divine being,
Right.
Um, so yeah, yes, and so that's like the language of Ori, or your intuition, is alignment. How is this aligned? Like I think about opening my new space and how everything is falling into place with ease.
Mhm.
You know, that's for me. That alignment lets me know that yes, this is the path. Yes, this
Mhm.
is the way that you should go. If I have to, grit my teeth and I'm fighting and scratching and like something's off.
Mhm.
Ease is our birthright.
Mhm.
It really is. It's not that you won't have challenges, but I mean, when you got to fight tooth and nail for everything,
Mhm.
we need to think about what might something possibly being out of alignment. Yeah. Yep.
I love that. I love that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, reclaiming. So now we know what kind of gets in the way. We know what it is. We know what gets in the way. But how do we reclaim it? How do we connect with our ori, or if,
Mhm,
or, or if you just if intuition or whatever language feels most resonant for you? And that's the beautiful thing. There's no one way to talk about it. Like I love that.
mhm,
But here's kind of three grounded practices that I would like to offer is like
mhm,
silence before decisions. Even small decisions, right? Pause before responding.
mhm,
Allow yourself some time to connect with that internal sense. You will be surprised at how it will tell you. Or even when you're about to make a decision and you feel like maybe Make right?
mhm,
A lot of times that is that kind of, that's Ori nudging or that an ancestral nudge or
mhm,
intuitive nudge, just asking you to slow down just a second and think about that. Body check-ins, right? Does this expand me or contract me?
mhm,
Right? When things are aligned or when things are, good for our intuition, we should feel expansive, even if what we're asked to do is something challenging, even if what we're asked or being led to do is something that we didn't necessarily want to do. There should be an undergirding feeling of expansion. I will do this. It will not be the most pleasant. However, I know this is for my greater good, right? Or things that make me feel small or unworthy or guilty. That's the part of you that loves you doesn't like those are external forces, shame and all of those
mhm,
things. That's not our true internal compass. Um,
mhm,
and I think the third thing is keeping small promises to yourself. Like trust grows through evidence. And so if you're going to trust your intuition, the more you do it, the more it grows. Trust it with something small, and then you'll build capacity for the bigger decisions. And you really don't build intuition by waiting for some lightning bolt. It is really
mhm.
those honoring those small signals. Like that's really what it is. That's really what it is. Yes, yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess we're kind of getting to time here. We like to keep these short and sweet. And so I guess I'll just offer that like reclaiming ancestral knowing, intuition, your Ori, whatever name you have for it, is less about gaining something new. And it's more about removing what gets in the way of it and what silences it. And so there's just something for me so powerful about knowing there is a part of me that knows.
Mhm,
Ah, I mean, I feel like it's like, okay, we can do this, right? And so now the only barrier is making sure that all of the things that would keep me from that I move out of the way, whether that's through my own practices or maybe sometimes getting help, from someone who is more intuitively connected at the time.
mhm.
And so this week, I kind of challenge everybody to notice a moment where you choose your inner knowing over external noise. Like
Oh, wow, I love that.
it doesn't have to be dramatic, just honest.
Mhm,
Like any moment where you choose your inner knowing over external noise. Sometimes if you're sitting in traffic, right, and you start all that energy and well, maybe I should just take off this way and go there. But then sometimes it's just like, no, just stick it out, stay in this lane, or maybe the nudge is to go another way, right? So it could be something as simple as that. Um,
mhm,
or how should I start my day? Do I start it with coffee, or maybe I need to have some fruit this morning? Like, just lean those simple things. And so I'll just kind of close with, this has been Living Lineage, ancestral wisdom shared in real time. And Andy, if you don't have anything else to add,
No, it's when I approach you about this, it's for me learning from you real time
I
too,
love it.
and I look forward every week because you're teaching lessons that are short and sweet, and I think it's easy to digest for people. So
Mhm.
thank you once again for having me as part of part of your show. I love it.
Absolutely. And I love, from the moment we really connected, there's been this wonderful kind of soul resonance, I'll call
Hmm.
it. And so every opportunity to just kind of sit in community with you, I love it. And so, yeah, everybody, this has been Living Lineage. And at the bottom of the screen, you can see where my website, ancestorsbosom.com. You can email me at Jeanine@ancestorsbosom.com. Yes, let's go ahead. Let's connect. You don't have to do it alone. We could do this
Hmm.
together. But yes, I'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in today. Bye, Andy.
Bye.